Hi folks, welcome back to MoveSkill. The question has come up, what's the difference between training and training for competition and actually doing competition? And this comes up quite a bit because the execution of movements changes. There are purists who demand that movements be done perfectly all the time, all circumstances, perfect movements, strict, slow, no kipping, no momentum, ever. Then there's other folks who are a lot more, could call it pragmatic or like, let's just get this done. Anything that meets the minimum standards counts. Let's talk a little bit about what your goals are. In a competition, especially the sport of fitness competition, there are many different movements, and the planners, the organizers of these events have to set some standards so that everybody's doing the same amount of work, or as close to that as these competition organizers can arrange. And in order to do that, they will set standards for range of motion, certain points of performance, like on a push-up. Chest has to touch the ground. It turns out that it's hard to actually make all your athletes do that. Everybody's cutting corners and trying to get away with what they can because it's a competition. And really in a competition, everything you can get away with is good, right? If you get away with it, and if you can get away with it and you don't, now you're just being silly, right? So the way competition is structured, the points of performance, the rules of how you actually perform movements are set up with really the needs of the organizers in mind. None of this has anything to do with you building a strong body and continuing your progressive development of skills and strength. So in training, now this is your race. This is your time to focus on what you are trying to achieve, and has little or nothing to do with what competition organizers are after. In training, you need to have some priorities in mind to structure your training, your performance, your own points of performance. And really the stricter the better. The more strictly, the more difficult you make a movement on yourself, the better that training is going to translate, whether you're talking about taking another step in your progression on your own, or you show up at a competition and all of a sudden the rules are a lot more lax than you've been allowing yourself. Now it's easy. Now it's easy for you. And meanwhile, the folks that have been cutting corners in all of their training, because they reason like, well, after all, that's all that's required in competition, the rules change sometimes. When you're at the CrossFit Games, all of a sudden they change the rules to now chest had to touch the bar or pull-ups didn't count. You should have heard the teeth gnashing on that day. And people tore their hands up, lots of folks flamed out. It was a disaster, which worked out perfectly. It was a perfect test. Exactly what competition organizers tested, exactly what they meant to be testing, but a lot of folks who had their priorities screwed up in training lost out on that day. So be clear for yourself, what are you doing on this day? Are you in a competition? Get away with everything you can, everything the rules allow. If the judges turn their back, maybe a little bit extra. That's on you. I won't take responsibility if you get caught. But in training, be your own harshest critic. Be really strict with yourself. That's only going to pay off down the road. Thanks. See you next time.